Welcome everyone. We're going to start as usual first with praise to Manjushri. I pay homage to the Guru and Lord I am Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations. You hold the scripture text in your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their sufferings. In 60 ways with your speech you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate as an only child. Your proclamation of Dharma is like a roaring thunder which awakens beings from the stupor of delusion, freeing us from the iron chains of our karma. Your word is sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. Primordially pure, princely bodies, embodiment of perfection of Bodhisattva, dwelling on the 10th Bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri who displays my ignorance, whose body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha. Be with your brilliant wisdom, O compassionate one, illumine the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten intelligence, wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words, text that explain. So we do the refuge prayer on page 9 and 4 immeasurables. Sanje Choedak Zoje Jona La Chanjo Bada Dane Jasunje Nage Jenye Jebande Dage Nala Benje Sanje Druparajo Sanje Choedak Zoje Jona La Chanjo Bada Dane Jasunje Dage Jenye Jebande Dage Nala Benja Sanje Druparajo. In Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, I take refuge until I lie the reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. Sanje Damje Dewa Dande Vyuda Dembara Juje Dhamma Dhamma Eji Juda Dravara Juje Dhamma Mebe Dewa Dhamma Juje Nyere Jada Nyeda Drave Tanyala Nebara Juje. May all living beings have happiness, the cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings from sorrowness. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings be separate from the bliss that is solace. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar by living with equanimity. Shemje namje zambata loye cheraye cherawa chejon tumoe tibaye cheje kolo gordozo. In accordance with the disposition and intelligence of sentient beings, we request you to turn the Dharma well of greater, lesser, and common miracles. As you know, we have been looking at the Paramitas, teachings on the 6 Paramitas, analytically meditating on 6 very important practices. First is generosity, then the self-discipline, then the tolerance, then the diligence, and then the concentration, meditation. These are the 5 we have covered so far, including the actual bodhicitta, the intention with which one practices those should be all altruistic for the benefit of others, without any of the 7 attachments that normal practice of generosity and discipline associate, those who are motivated by the good heart intention of selflessness, they do so solely for the benefit of others, not seeking any compliment, recognition, or reward of any kind, but one does it only to ripen, benefit other sentient beings. Even when we practice tolerance, we don't practice tolerance thinking that will make look good on me, but rather we practice tolerance that it will ease the sufferings of others and then benefit them. So those are very important points. But remember that paramita, that which makes paramita of any of the dana or shila or any of the other paramitas is the sixth one. Sixth paramita is that which makes all the 5 paramitas. Paramita meaning transcendental. So that is tonight's topics, called prajna paramita. Prajna means primordial wisdom or transcendental wisdom. What is transcendental is transcend the ego, that usually it always has, whatever it does, ego does, it always does it thinking what has got it for me in this. So the transcendental practice is how to realize the very problem and sufferings are caused by grasping to the I and ego. And so this practice is exactly to undo the ego. And so therefore tonight's the nature of the wisdom is, transcendental wisdom is that it will give you the ability to know the what you call relative cause and effect concept of reality and ultimate nature of things as they are. So this particular Prajnaparamita mostly leans onto the idea of the things as they are. We don't have to transcend the ego if it does exist. There is no ego that doesn't exist. We just have to be educated in knowing there is no such thing as permanent, independent, truly existing self or ego. We all can say, yeah, but there is, that's the problem. We know there isn't, but there is, that's the problem. So there's this we sort of intellectually know that, but there still seems to be some kind of intrinsic feeling, intrinsic thinking that I exist. This is habituated, so long habituated. But it's like we can see each other with the name. We think such and such, but it's actually the person is not that name. But we got so used to thinking each other the name. But sometimes we see somebody we don't know who they are, because our influence and information about them is not well habituated, so they don't really exist when we don't remember the habituation. So it's not that they don't exist, but our concept of them is not existing. So it's only grasping, only habituation. So perfection wisdom, Prajnaparamita is a big topic, and so tonight I have chosen to go over the Heart Sutra, because Heart Sutra is the Prajnaparamita. Heart Sutra is the most succinct text there is that will give you some understanding. So that's why we're going to go over this. And later on, at the end of the session, we will do the Heart Sutra and teach you how to use the Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra is not only recited, but actually can be meditated on its meaning. And then it's actually the meaning of the Heart Sutra should be incorporated with any practice of generosity or morality or whatever we do. And then we transcend the practices, benefit of that. So you got the Heart Sutra there, and I've got also the outline of the commentary there. So if it helps for you, then maybe the Heart Sutra is also in the black folder on page 5. Or you can look at unstable that 2 pages and then put side by side. That might be easier to look at it. Heart Sutra is the very short 25-line text on the perfection of wisdom. But Buddhist text has usually 100,000 line perfection wisdom text, Paramita, is usually got 12 volumes, or 25,000 line Heart Sutra, perfection wisdom, that has 4 big volumes, or 8,000 lines, that's one big volume. And then 750 lines, that is called Diamond Cutter Sutra, yeah. And then this Heart Sutra is only 25 lines, 25 lines. So it's essence of what is contained in actually big 12 volumes are put into this. So this is the most succinct text there is. It's very blessing. In Zen Buddhist tradition, they wouldn't even do refuge prayers. They just do this before any Buddhist ceremonies or occasions. They just chant this, they beat the gong, and they start everything. It's Chinese, Mahayana, and Zen tradition. Tibetan always do the Heart Sutra before major teachings, you know. So it's very, just by reciting it. I remember when I was very young, when my sister or somebody was ill in the house, and they get some monks to come and read the Heart Sutra. Just read, Heart Sutra is read out loud in the house in order to remove some obstacles, you know. So Heart Sutra is great blessing. It's the essence of all the teachings of the Buddha put in this nutshell, you know. And it's, if you know the meaning, it's really good to daily recitation. You should not just read in class, but compile your daily prayer book, okay? Make a little daily prayer book from the things you learn, and put them and learn to do it daily. It's really just blesses you to just read it. If you know the meaning, of course you meditate on the meaning. That's what tonight we're going to attempt to cover, a little bit of understanding on the Heart Sutra. So firstly, it's called Heart Sutra. Meaning of the title, heart, is like the heart is the most important organ of all the organs, isn't it? Likewise, this Heart Sutra is quintessence of the essence of all the teachings of the Buddhas. In Sanskrit, it's called Hridaya Sutra, you know, Hridaya Sutra. Hridaya means heart, you know, Hridaya. Tibetan called Sherab Nyingpo. Sherab means wisdom, Nyingpo means essence, means heart of the wisdom, heart of the wisdom. So the short-term title is Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra. Stirab Tibetan we call Sherab Nyingpo. Paramita, Heart Sutra. Hridaya Sutra. It's heart of the perfection of transcendental wisdom. So when you in the actual text, what we have is a Paramita. Paramita meaning the perfection of transcendental wisdom, perfection of wisdom. And so that's the meaning, just general meaning of the title. Then what you have, to the perfection of wisdom, blessed Mother, I pay homage. So that line is homage added by the translators. It is not in the original text. When Tibetan translated the Sanskrit text into Tibetan, the Lotsawas or translators, in collaboration of the Tibetan translator and Indian scholar, 2 people at minimum worked in collaboration. They always offer this prayer to the perfection of wisdom, blessed Mother, I pay homage. They pay homage before they translate it for 3 purposes. One is out of devotion to the sacredness of these texts. So to have the liberty to translate is it's a big effort. You may not do a good service, you know. So you pay homage to the holy text. So it's out of humility. Another is whatever there is the blessings in the text, may it be the reason that makes the translator do the work, not to prove their linguistic priorists. Okay? Because a lot of people do this to prove their linguistic skill, to get a degree or whatever, to get a grant or whatever, when they translate a small piece. No, that's not the case. It is to honor that. Another thing is that so that all the obstacles there is in starting and continuing and completing the translation, all the obstacles be allayed. So that's a very prayerful purpose. Another thing is that the future people who will read this translation, may they be blessed, as much as that there is in the blessing. So that is the purpose of the many purpose of the paying homage. Yeah, paying homage is very important. It's a sign of humility. It's like coming into the shrine with 3 bow down before you sit. Just like that before. So that's that. Those. So therefore, the Lotsawas, the Panditas were not just academics; they were practitioners. They were devotees of the Buddha Dharma. So that's just first part, introduction. Then the main meaning of that text is what we will cover here is the text. The Heart Sutra has in Chinese tradition they have a long Heart Sutra and short Heart Sutra. The short Heart Sutra, they will not have this couple of paragraphs, They will basically have, those paragraphs we marked until, the paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. They will skip the paragraph 6 up till 6. They'll start only from paragraph 7. Form is emptiness, emptiness of form. Straight away go into the teachings. They don't go into the prologue or background of the Heart Sutra. And also at the bottom in the text that they don't go into the concluding remarks of how the teaching concluded. They don't read that. So that's sometimes they call the short Heart Sutra. I call it corrupt Heart Sutra because it seems so. It's like a headless and legless. Just the main body of the teaching there, but doesn't tell what happened, how it was concluded. So most of the sutras always has thus I have heard the beginning. So therefore, in these texts, because Tibetan and Mongolian Buddhist Heart Sutra always have this. They never use the short version. The short version is not even heard about. If they do the short version, they just read that gate para. They just recite the mantra. But when they read the Heart Sutra, they read from the very beginning. They don't exclude the first 6 paragraphs or skip the last 3 paragraphs. They do the whole thing. So, of course, Chinese and Japanese, they were basically limited by the characters, They really are. Every character cost ink. So they really wanted to put the main gist of the teachings, and the rest they just leave it there. Not that they're not aware of it, but they don't have a lot of background commentary. In Tibetan Buddhist commentary, the meaning of the Heart Sutra is very much elucidated by the completeness of it. So what we have here is firstly the Heart Sutra and Sutra usually are taught when there are 5 perfect factors are complete. First, what are the first 5 factors? Is the first 4 are common perfect factors and 1 perfect factors. The first common factors is perfect time. Thus I have heard one time. When it says thus I have heard at one time, it shows that the time when this was heard was not repeated. Time that this happened was one-off. It shows the rarity and shows the sacredness and shows that's a magic moment when this happened. It was heard only once. Also heard once means the hearing was so strong that the one who heard never forgot that. Thus I've heard. Perfect time. Magic moments, Thus I've heard. Who is I? This is a compiler of the Heart Sutra. Usually in Mahayana is Vajrapani or Manjushri. So all Mahayana literatures are compiled by them. Like in the Theravada Sutras, most sutras are compiled by Ananda and Upali and Mahakashapa. So the I refers to the people who main disciples, so Vajrapani or Manjushri, who later compile them. So that's thus I have heard one time. He heard the concerned people who engage in the conversation. Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara were the 2 main participants in the dialogue, and Buddha was giving endorsement. So heard from these 3, yeah? And also heard everybody silent. The rest of the people became very silent. So it's a magic moment. Thus I've heard one time. So perfect time, rarity, and the hearing was so perfect. The teaching was so accurate that ever since he heard it, he never forgot it. It totally blessed his ears, blessed his consciousness. Thus, I've heard one. One time shows the rarity. Okay, so that talks about the perfect timing. Second is the blessed one was This refers to Shakyamuni Buddha. Blessed one is an epithet of the word Bhagavan, means one who has destroyed the 4 maras, who has accomplished the 6 perfections are called Blessed One, Bhagavan, was dwelling in Rajgriha. Rajgriha is one of the 6 main cities in ancient India. These days it's just important archaeological remains, but not a big city anymore, but still very historical. So Rajgriha, in our Buddhist pilgrimage we go. This is one of the sites where we go. Rajgriha is a city. Raja means kingdom, Griha means home of the king. So it's a big palace city. On Vulture's Peak. So Vulture's Peak is a specific location within the vicinity of Rajgriha, but it's not Rajgir. Rajgriha is a lay person's dwelling place. Vulture's Peak was the monastic's dwelling place. So it's talking about very solitude up there. So Rajgriha, so it's talking about the Blessed One was referring to the perfect teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. You know, it's difficult to get Shakyamuni Buddha around. And that was the moment there. And where was the place? The place is Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak. So that talks about the perfect place. Perfect place that it said every single atom in Rajgriha is blessed by thousands of bodhisattvas, they said. So when you go there, even a small atom you should bring home. They say that, you know, that there is no great blessed place in India that is Rajgriha than even Bodh Gaya or other places. Because while Buddha got enlightened, did many things, but that many bodhisattvas attending the Buddha's teaching never occurred anywhere but in Rajgriha. So Rajgriha is therefore a very special place. That's the place where Buddha first conducted the first rainy season retreat. That's the place where Buddha converted Shariputra and Moggallana. Rajgriha is an amazing historical place where Buddha also tamed his very rival cousin, as well as the king Ajatasattu, who assassinated his own father Bimbisara. So it's a very important Buddhist city, Buddhist town. So, perfect place. And perfect disciples, it says, together with a great assembly of Sangha, a great assembly of Bodhisattvas. So talking about the audience was all Sanghas, Arya Sanghas. These are Arhats and Bodhisattvas. So Arya Sanghas, all the participants, those listening to the teaching, when they say great assembly is more than 5,000. You know, Great Assembly Sangha refers to more than 5,000 Sangha members. Great Assembly Bodhisattva meaning not only Arhat Assembly, but Bodhisattva Mahasanghas. So there are 2 types. There's generally speaking, the disciples for the Theravadan mentality disciples, as well as Mahayana mentality, as well as lay people. It also talks about Devas, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshas, and Gandharvas, and so on, demigods, and everyone was present there. So, because who would not be a suitable candidate when the teacher is the Buddha? Isn't it? It's only when the teacher is not Buddha, then the candidates are not so. The Buddha, even the trees became candidates. Everything became candidates. So this lists all the perfect audience, perfect disciples. So those are the first 4 common. So this is important, isn't it? Important background of who was there to make this happen. Then the next one is it says here what was this is the place and who were there at that time, at that very momentous occasion. Yeah, Blessed One was absorbed in samadhi. Shakyamuni Buddha, of course, is always in samadhi. Not just he's got a spring meditation or winter retreat or something like that. No, he's always in meditation. But this time he happened to be in this specific meditation, absorbed in samadhi, meaning deep meditative absorption, on the subject of the meditation on the enumeration of phenomena. Enumeration meaning classification of phenomena. Like you look at a ball or a cup or a box or a carpet, he was meditating on every single knots or the color of the things like that and all the particular things, and then therefore seeing the emptiness of the carpet because he was looking at the knots and the fibers and yarns and there was no carpet because he was meditating on the every single minute particles of everything, and therefore there is no one whole carpet or whole person or whole box or whole feelings. So that is name of the meditation is profound illumination. Samunangwa. Samunangwa means very profoundly illuminating. Why? Buddha was meditating there. He wasn't doing much talking, but when he was meditating, the illumination of his meditation was affecting everybody. Just everybody is sitting in the assembly was feeling the pulsation of the meditation, the vibration frequency. The energy of the Buddha's meditation was affecting every audience member, and the earth and air and spirit and the ambience and energy and everything. So this is talking about the electric moment that was that was happening. Yeah. So this is talking about the what triggered the teaching to occur. Yeah. What triggered? Usually when you attend teaching, you expect the Buddha to teach. Everybody sits silent. Buddha to teach. No, Buddha went into meditation. And it's just amazing. All of a sudden, teacher wouldn't teach. He just go into deep meditation, and everybody receiving God a lot of buzz. So, also at that time, now this is the, okay, also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara. So Avalokiteshvara was one among the other 5,000 Bodhisattvas, he was the leading Bodhisattvas who were there. You remember, they are all equal Bodhisattvas. Who would dare to disturb Buddha's meditation? So at that time, Avalokiteshvara was contemplating. Avalokiteshvara had been meditating the exact what Buddha was meditating. So he was meditating on meaning of the profound perfection of wisdom, and he saw the five aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. This is amazing, meditating on the emptiness of the self in the body, and so on. He was meditating on that. So this was what is this meditation? This is because the power of the Shakyamuni Buddha's meditation, Avalokiteshvara was put in that state of meditation. Then through the power of the Buddha, then second person who was also becoming a little bit uneasy, maybe, or being cheered up, was that the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra was Buddha's one of the chief disciples. Unfortunately, he predeceased the Buddha. He never became successor. But otherwise, Buddha's reckoned Shariputra was his most intelligent disciple. And you see some monastery statues. Buddha has two disciples, one standing on the right, the one on the right is called Shariputra. Shariputra is a daughter, or is a son of the lady Shari. Where his father was a very learned Brahmin, and so on. Anyway, Shariputra is very important. Shariputra predeceased Buddha. Buddha praised about Shariputra like no other. Buddha praising, But when Shariputra passed away, Buddha went to do the funeral cremation. And then Shariputra's relics were built into a stupa. And that's what became Nalanda. The Nalanda monastery is built on the site where Shariputra was born and cremated. He died in the very room he was born. And he was cremated in that very place, and that became the site where they built the Nalanda monastery. So today you see that as a site of the biggest ancient Buddhist university. And main thing you will see is the Shariputra stupa, main thing, even now. So the Shariputra is very important. And now Rajagriha is just up the road. They're just up the road. It's not very far from there, maybe about an hour's drive. From there is Rajagriha. So that shows. So this all happened within Shariputra's sort of birthplace. So Shariputra, all of a sudden, broke the silence. Everybody was sitting, and he just felt like talking. I said this to Buddha. Instead of asking the Buddha question, he asked the Avalokiteshvara. Could you imagine? They broke the courtesy. So, asked the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara. So he asked the question, So what we're talking about is the main teaching of the Heart Sutra was the subject of the meditation of the Buddha that is also felt and experienced by Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, one as the questioner, the other as the respondent. So Shariputra did the asking of the question as if he doesn't know. so all this, they just make facilitating teaching for us, Of course, Shariputra knows what these things are. Avalokiteshvara shouldn't be really doing the answering, but he just couldn't stop. Because this is all caused by the influence of the Buddha's meditation, remember? So the power of the Buddha. So that's what we have here. The one extraordinary perfect factor is the teaching and subject of the meditation of Buddha. And how the teaching all occurred. In Buddhism, they say the teaching occurs through the blessings of the Buddha, through the endorsement Buddha, through the verbal actual utterance of the Buddha, through the power of the meditation of the Buddha. So teachings are not all spoken by the Buddha. It could be spoken by others, Buddha endorsed them and then becomes equivalent to words of the Buddha. So in this case, the teaching and conversation between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara is basically, caused by the blessed by the power of the meditative concentration of the Buddha's profound illumination. Who are blessed? Shariputra was blessed as the questioner. Avalokiteshvara was blessed as the interlocutor or answerer, one who had all the answers for the change. and Avalokiteshvara was blessed to respond fearlessly in front of the Buddha. Buddha was meditating and they're talking. Just imagine. and Shariputra was so intelligent, but he acted as though he didn't. He was asking the question on behalf of everybody, so to speak. So Shariputra was blessed as the questioner, and then that dialogue between the two became the teaching. So that's the perfect teaching. Fifth one is perfect teaching. So what happens is this. Shariputra then asks, how should son or daughter of good lineage train who wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom? So Shariputra is asking Avalokiteshvara that whether it's son or daughter. Son or daughter is not biological. It's talking about son or daughter, meaning anybody who has a good promise, good latency to practice Dharma. How should they train in the training of the bodhisattvas who wishes to meditate on this perfection wisdom? And as soon as Shariputra asked this, Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara said these to Venerable Shariputra. So Avalokiteshvara responded to Shariputra, who is basically us all. Shariputra is all sentient beings. And then Avalokiteshvara replies, Shariputra. He calls the attention by the name of the Shariputra. Because that's a very endearing word to call the name of somebody and then answer the question. Shariputra, whatever son or good, this doesn't matter what caste, what age, what background, what criminal background, whatever, everybody can meditate on this and they will be liberated. Never mind your background, never mind how much you don't know. Who wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom should view in this way, should change the view. Because until now, people view themselves as aggregate, themselves as the body, themselves as not happy with the body or with the feeling or with their doings or non-doings or failings. They're so lost in thinking they are the five aggregates. So he says that they should correctly view. Correctly view suggests that we have an incorrect way of viewing things. We have an incorrect way of viewing thinking that we are the body, or we are the feeling, or we are our failures, or doings, or our consciousness. So the people have a wrong way of thinking. What are the incorrect way of viewing this? One thinks the aggregates are permanent, self, real, independent, truly existing. These are the wrong views. So therefore, Avalokiteshvara answers, they should correctly view, means they should change their wrong views. So that's the perfection of wisdom. Wisdom is invalidating the wrong views and replacing the wrong views with the right views, isn't it? For instance, thinking life is all about happiness It's not. In Buddhism, life is pain. Life is unsatisfactory. That is true. Life is correctly viewed. The life is unsatisfactory. Rather than trying so hard all the time, trying to be happy, which don't exist. So give up trying to be happy, and then you'll be probably happier. See, that's the correct way of viewing things. It's really true, This Buddhist view is that life is not thought, and life shouldn't be a struggle to be happy. Life basically is unsatisfactory, and so just take a break, and then you'll be happy. Then you're much more contented. Otherwise, you just think there is a finishing line to cross, then you'll be happy. Until then, you have to struggle, So, correctly view, This we have a wrong view. This is, of course, ultimate teaching, but even the thing, life is suffering and everything is impermanent, these are correct views. If you think everything is impermanent, for instance, it's a correct view. Because they are, and you see them. But if you correctly view things impermanent, then next time when something changes, you don't get disappointed. You say, oh yeah, I knew that. Oh, that's exactly what the fact is. So there's no disappointment. Correctly view things, If we incorrectly view things to last longer, permanent or so, but then when they change, we get disappointed. We think it's terrible. This happened to me, and So when people ask each other, "How are you?" means, how is your incorrect view helping you? That's what it really means. How are you means you haven't got the right view yet. So how are you going on? So we shouldn't ask, "How are you?" as a Buddhist. We should say, how is the incorrect view going these days? So, if you have correct view, then you're perfectly fine, because then there's no shock, no disbelief, and nothing is unprecedented. It's just the norm, and so you don't collapse or you don't have a nervous breakdown. Because life is a perfect nervous breakdown. So when you have perfect nervous breakdown, who minds all these small ones? This is true, I think Buddhist views should be really clearly understood, and then you can laugh about it. Then you are happy. Then you truly knew that how happiness is so easy when you know everything's unsatisfactory. I was talking about this up in Townsville, and we had a most amazing laugh. Everybody said, "So we shouldn't really try very hard." I said, "Why? Why should we try? It's all unsatisfactory." Then we start giving up. Everybody say, "Okay." Then they really realize that they can be happy for a change. Because when you accept everything is unsatisfactory, then there's not a lot of curse on you. Then it's all about accepting that, and then after you accept that, then you realize that our life is less unsatisfactory than his or than hers, and then we can be useful to attend others who are more unsatisfactory. Then we become useful. Amazing. See, this is the whole correctly view, Shariputra and Avalokita, sentient beings they are not suffering anything, but they're suffering from bad views. So the first of the eightfold path in Mahavajna Buddhism is right view. So here, Shariputra, Avalokita says, correctly view those aggregates, means form, physical body, as empty of inherent existence. It's empty of self that is permanent, that is truly existing, that is independently existing. So empty of inherent, empty, so therefore they're merely labeled, merely conceptualized, merely coined, merely earmarked, they exist. But actually it doesn't exist. There you could not find self in the body, you can't find self in the hairs, you can't find self in the ears, you can't find self in the marrows and bones and joints and even hearts and lungs and livers.
You can't find it there. You can find blood and tissues and fibers and the gaps and holes in the body. There is no self there. So there is no self. So one should view. Why you should view five aggregates as empty of inherent existence? Then you become less attached to the body as self, less attached to the body and its feelings. Because people when they think they are feeling, they get too attached to some fire feelings, too angry at other feelings, then they get caught up in that and they suffer. So when you know that you are not a feeling is just an illusory, it's just like a mirage, then you don't try to drink mirage. And so that will not quench thirst. So the feelings are, just see them as a passing sceneries, not something permanent, enduring things. So correctly view. So this is very important. Now that's the introduction to the teaching, Introduction. Explicitly saying, explicit teaching saying that five aggregates are empty of inherent existence. Very big bombshell, And saying that there is no self that is in the five aggregates, and five aggregates themselves don't inherently exist. When we say don't inherently exist, we say if you want to dissect the body, any part of the body you look at it, you think it's a head, but it's not head, it's a skull. When you think skull, it's not skull, it's bone. When you think it's bone, it's not bone, it's brain. When you think it's brain, it's not brain, it's a tofu. So basically, there isn't anything. The more you look at it, the less you find anything that you thought it was. So there's empty of anything inherent, enduring, solid, permanent entity. There isn't anything. So empty of inherent existence. So by the blessings of this is the teaching. Now, how all experiences. So if you know these, then how all experiences will be revealed. The four valid points. Four valid points are made by these four statements. Form is emptiness is the valid point of the yoga of devoid of appearances. Yoga of devoid of appearances meaning, yoga means meditation. Meditation seeing the form lacking what it appears as, like a rainbow. You see the beautiful color, but actually it lacks any substance, So like that, all things you see, whether you see whatever you see, it actually it proves that form is emptiness. Form is not form. Form is empty of the form. And therefore it's devoid of the appearance. The appearance itself, when you check here, it's a lax. Appearance is actually a label that we designated to the form. So the thing that appears is none other than our label. If you see your father, to you it looks your father because you have labeled him as a father. But to somebody he's a stranger. To others as a neighbor, depending whichever label they have put it into the object. So there is no identical person who appears what is truly exists, because there's no truly existing. So therefore, only appears according to the designation the person has of the object. So that shows the object is empty. Because if his object is truly existing, he will appear as a father in front of everybody, because the object exists inherently. Remember. Because that object does not. One son sees the father as loving for a figure, other sees the father as a father, but he hates him. So that shows that there is not even the father could be perceived as a loving father by 3 children or 4 children. This is an example. I'm not saying that's the case. Of course, everybody sees the father lovingly. But just in case some people have estranged with their father, you can see. It's not because of the father, it's therefore their attitude, their views, their ill will, ungrateful towards him, makes him paint like that. So therefore, form of the father, that person receives ungrateful, is empty in the father. It's just a projection. It's just a projection of the mind of the person. It says the yoga of devoid of appearance, when form is emptiness. And when it says form is emptiness, And emptiness is form. So when it says form is emptiness, if form is form, it could not appear more than one. It could appear only one thing uniformly, that's it. It could not appear. Because form is emptiness and emptiness is form, yeah, therefore you can see the emptiness of form because it's emptiness, it can manifest as a form. Yeah, so emptiness is form, yoga of appearances. So that is the yoga of appearances, that the appearance themselves shows that it is empty. Yeah, appearance itself shows empty. Like the moon in the waters shows it's empty of the moon in the water. Yeah, if you really look at it, the reflection is not a proof of the moon in the water. It's a proof of non-existence of the moon in the water. Yeah, so it's emptiness of the moon in the water actually reveal in the moon, reveal in the water. Likewise, if you see something in an object, the object itself is empty. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. And then the third one is the path of the non-duality. That's the form and emptiness. Form and emptiness are non-duality. Not one is not opposite to the other. They are mutually inclusive. The moon in the water is emptiness as well as a reflection, isn't it? So they are non-dual, form and emptiness. Non-dual, form and emptiness. So it's not that what you can't see. If you can't see anything in the water, then it would be nihilistic. There is nothing. We're not saying it's nothing. We're saying that what appears actually is not. Yeah. So therefore, it's non-duality, form and emptiness. So that's what the third statement is that is emptiness is no other than the form, no other than the form. So you shouldn't think that emptiness is something else, form is something else. They're both the non-duality. It's just like the fire and its heat. Yeah, you can't say heat is this, fire is this. So they are indivisible. Third point. Fourth point is, and the form is not other than emptiness. So that's makes a complete circle. So that's non-duality of form and emptiness of moon's reflection in the water. Yeah, that's an example. So this is very important. These four statements are actually the most important one. That's why the Zen Buddhist tradition started meditation on here, because that's the main teaching. But it says, in the same way, means if you understood this to be the case about form, so let's say generosity. If you practice generosity, if you practice tolerance, you've been generous so many years, you've been practicing compassion to your mother or partner or whatever it is, and you have this feeling that how much you gave, you think that I gave all this, that we get attached to the form we did, we don't realize it's quite different, So if you understand the perfection of wisdom, you should meditate that all the good you did is not inherently real, not inherently truly existing. You should correctly view it is interdependently produced. It is not independently existing because you practice generosity. It needs other person to practice generosity too. Even you practice generosity, but what you gave is not yours, came from somebody else, maybe from your parents or uncles or friends or whatever. So therefore everything that you do is not independently, inherently, unitarily what you are doing. It's got many, many factors other than your generosity. So therefore, it's emptiness of your generosity, empty of inherently existing generosity, but not empty of existence, empty of inherent existence. Inherent means independent. So therefore, one needs to say, it says, in the same way as these forms are mentioned as emptiness, you should think about various things: hurt, pain, loss, despair, all these things as an emptiness. Or emptiness of form, emptiness other than form is other, like that, with feeling also. You should meditate. Feeling is emptiness. Emptiness is feeling. Emptiness no other than feeling. Feeling is not other than emptiness. So that's why you should use with every 5 aggregates. You could use those 4 statements. Yeah. So the feeling. Yeah. So if you're sad, feel sad. If you have perfection of wisdom, if you have wisdom, you should meditate on the feeling. That feeling is emptiness. Feeling is not emptiness, but doesn't mean doesn't exist. It means empty of inherent existence. Inherent means permanent. If it's a permanent, you can't have it now. You could have yesterday, since yesterday. You never can complain your feeling because you always had it. If you're complaining at all, it means it came only erupted recently. So, because it's occurrence, it's impermanent. So, what is impermanent is not inherently existing. So, therefore, in the same way, your feeling of loneliness or hurt or anger is emptiness. You should meditate on that. And yet the emptiness is the feeling. Yeah? Feeling. Feeling is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than feeling. And so you should meditate on that. Likewise, with the discrimination means perception. Your visual perception, you saw somebody doing this to you or whatever. Whatever, you heard somebody say this or talk about this and you believe in that. People really believe what they heard or what they saw. They don't realize their perception is very much colored by afflictions of their own and as well as other people. So they don't realize that what the perception is emptiness. Perception is emptiness. Like the moth who sees the flame beautiful, there is nothing beautiful in the flame, but yet he sees it. It's deluded in thinking it's beautiful. It doesn't even know it's flame, Likewise, all our perceptions are completely obscured and concocted by one's own grasping and wrong views. So therefore, in the same way, you should see all your perceptions. Often people are suffering their perception. They believe their perception. They think he did this to me. They think that was his intent. They believe in their perception so much, and then they suffer as a result of concretizing this feeling. But if you correctly can view your perception, you realize that's emptiness. That's empty of the true facts. It's wrongly conceived, badly concocted views. So therefore, you can ease your views, the perception of people or things or events and yourself. What a great blessing that it is. It's just like lift the curse of suffering. And how long does it take to get well? If you can meditate on the emptiness of perception, emptiness of perception. So, of course, visual perception, auditory perception, as well as anything, any six sense organs. And the fourth one is composition factor. Composition factor is a complicated term which actually means volitional action, which means activities. Whatever you did. Some people not happy what they did. Or some people are so angry what people did to them. They think that is truly existing, They think it's inherently existing. They don't realize it is empty of inherently existing action. It is dependently produced. It has lot more than factor. Usually we try to nail down to one person as the cause of the action. We don't realize there got many, many causes or conditions. They got 50 witnesses to prove one person wrong. That shows all the 50 persons are responsible. So there is nothing that is inherently existing. Composition factor, meaning actions. When you can meditate on the emptiness of action or consequences, it doesn't mean there is no action or consequences, but it's saying there is no inherently one that is cause. Inherently, permanently one that is cause. Independently existing one that is cause of the action. So this gives us a lot of leverage to pardon each other, forgive each other. Because otherwise we hold this incorrectly view that he did this. Yeah, he's entirely responsible. I did it all myself. I messed it up. And then people bash themselves. This is incorrect view. This is unkind view. This is self-debilitating. This is destructive emotion. No wonder why they got distracted, because they're wrong views. Wrong views. So one therefore should meditate on the emptiness of action. Form is action is emptiness. Emptiness action. Emptiness is no other than action. Action is no other than emptiness. You should say this mantra about everything. Harming is emptiness. Emptiness is harming. Emptiness is no other than harming. Harming is no other than emptiness. Helping is emptiness. Emptiness is helping. Helping is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than helping. Because so lots of people, I helped him, I help him, this is what I get. They're so fundamentalist that their help has been violated or misused. They should meditate on the emptiness of the help, emptiness of the thing they did or they didn't succeed, whatever it is. Very beautiful teaching. It will help liberate people. And you can see why later on it says the mantra is, highest mantra is this mantra. You don't have to repeat it, you have to think about it. It's a mantra you don't recite, mantra you think. Real mantra is thinking mantra. Even mantra that we say is so that our thinking improves. Heart Sutra is thinking medicine. It's a cognitive therapy, really. Highest kind, highest cognitive therapy. Composition factors. If somebody hurt you, you really feel they did this. It is a result of their hurt. You just think like that. You should sing, oh, hurt is emptiness, emptiness is hurt, emptiness other than hurt, hurt is no other than emptiness. His doing is emptiness, emptiness is his doing is no other than emptiness, emptiness other than his doing, things like that. Then slowly it will space out. It will create space between you and the issues. And then you are very kind to you and the other, and then you have the wisdom. Perfection of wisdom is called. It will make all the problems solved. Because you no longer hold the incorrect view that they are entirely, individually, intrinsically responsible. We don't think like that. So, likewise, the last of the 5 aggregates, consciousness. In the same way, consciousness is empty. Emptiness is consciousness. Consciousness is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than consciousness. In the same way, visual consciousness is empty. Emptiness is visual consciousness. And so on. Then you apply with all the 5 senses when you do that. This is why the long perfection of wisdom, 700 verses or the 8,000 verses, they actually elaborate like that. They elaborate like that. Word by word by then. There's many sort of series of lines, just same thing again and again, then goes over and the next level. But this is succinct, so it says in the same way, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, like that. But actually, you should do that also. I is emptiness, emptiness is I, emptiness no other than I, and I is no other than emptiness. Ear is emptiness, because it says no I, no nose, no thing. These things are listed later on. Yeah, actually that's the succinct, very short way of listing. Otherwise, one should use all these four methods of teaching to each of the list of the things that are emptiness. Yeah, yeah. So in the Shariputra, this Avalokiteshvara reiterates, oh Shariputra, in the same way, I mean, just as I have listed the 5 aggregates, emptiness and form, and then, in the same way, all phenomena, all phenomena, What if somebody called your name, That is a phenomena of name calling, And some people suffer because they call name calling, But if you really know the Heart Sutra, if in the same way, all phenomena such as name calling is empty. It's empty. And so it's got 8 characteristics here. Now this talks about 8 characteristics. Eightfold profound realization. Next page, on page 2. So if you look at the structure of Heart Sutra, it goes to the 5 aggregates first. Each of the 5 aggregates you meditate on 4 yogas, and then you go to eightfold profound realization. Eightfold profound realization is as a result of doing those four valid points. The 4 valid points. First is those 4 statements, 4 valid points. Valid means true, factual, incontrovertible. Means it cannot be changed, it could not be arguable. They are just truth, they are just the way. Yeah. And now anything that fits under these 4 valid points are necessarily have 8 profound realizations. you know. So therefore, what are the 8 profound realizations? This is stated by these phrases. All phenomena are merely empty. So that's the first valid profound realization. All phenomena are merely empty. Now, name calling, whatever it is, you know, all losing all the money in the gambling, all. So you were so unhappy you had lots of money because not enough is there. So you lose it, then very good. Very good, you know. This emptiness of money, money is emptiness. Emptiness no other than money, money is no other than emptiness. Even you won, is winning is emptiness. Even you lose, losing is emptiness. Because after all, it's just nothing, really. It's just... So, all phenomena are empty. So, one is first. Second is devoid of characteristic. Characteristic means they don't have intrinsic characteristic. If we say the water is fluid, that's water's characteristic is not intrinsic. You know, intrinsic. It's always in relative to something else. We call water as fluid because earth is solid, not because water is fluid. So water is, otherwise we might say water is hard. So, but in comparison, the earth, water is fluid. So there is no characteristic of phenomena by itself. So if you say I'm tall, my tall characteristic is not inherently existing. I am standing next to a short person. But if I'm standing next to a tall person, I will be short. So I have, what is my characteristic? There is no characteristic. My tall is emptiness. My short is empty. So like that. So you just apply that with everything. Third point is they are not created, means they're unborn, meaning they are created. If you created means if you created like God, creation by God. If you create, then it's there. But if you look at, say, if I snap the finger, did I create the sound? You probably say yes. But if I create it, then it should be visible. Where is the created one? You know? So there is no creation. There is no snapping of the finger. You know, because if this is truly existing snapping of the finger, it will be snapping all the time. It doesn't need people to hear it. It will be doing the snapping by itself. But even the snapping of finger itself is not created by the snapping of the finger. It is created by your listening, your nearness to the sound, and all other factors. So there is no self-created. Nothing is self-created. Nothing comes from itself. No, they do not cease, meaning fourth one is unceasing. But that doesn't mean that I can't snap again. so it doesn't mean that I can't snap again. So it's unceasing, yeah. So it's not necessarily created or unceasing, and they have no impurity. They have no impurity. This is very important. People say I have affliction, I have failures, I have this, I have failed you, I have messed this life, or whatever. People think like that. They say, you've done, we've finished, or type of thing. What are you talking about, you know? They're just dualistically thinking about it, because otherwise there is no real impurity. It's just totally concordant, relative to something, yeah? So your impurity or your faults, your mistakes do not inherently exist. It is totally dependent on something else, you know. So therefore there is no impurity that is like afflictions. There are no afflictions that inherently exist. It doesn't mean there is no affliction in you. It means there's no affliction that is inherently existing, truly existing, independently existing. Everything is that. Everything is like that. Then you will think, even though somebody has a little problem with you, then you say, this doesn't inherently exist. They're largely due to me and him and everybody else's call. Interdependence. When you think that, you're much kinder to them. But if you think it's entirely of his, independently, intrinsically existing, then we become fundamentalist view. All this fundamentalist view, which Madhyamika Buddhist view try to argue, is so as to eradicate this fundamentalist view of eternalistic and nihilistic. So it's trying to avoid these extreme views. And therefore, when it says there is no impurity, it doesn't mean there is no impurity. It says there is no inherently, independently, and permanent impurity. If it is permanent and inherently, we can't purify them. Why do Vajrasattva practice? Why do any of that? So it's very kind, very kind. Teaching of emptiness is compassion with essence of the wisdom, is called. Otherwise, we try to be kind also. Without wisdom, we harm each other. When we have wisdom, then the compassion is fit to compassion. Otherwise, compassion will seize, entrap both us and them, and neither benefit anybody. So that's why wisdom is perfection of wisdom. Wisdom, without wisdom, they say, the first 5 perfections are like a blind person. Blind person has fit legs and hands, but when he's blind, he can't go anywhere. But if you have perfection of wisdom, the emptiness, then it's like the person who has eye, who has sight. Then his limbs and what he do is much more powerful. Without the emptiness, then everything they do are minus the wisdom. So you give, you help, also become harm, and so on. Because we think it's truly existing, independently existing. These are wrong views. So they say they have no impurity. And they are not devoid of impurity. This is amazing. At the same time, they are not devoid of impurity. They have impurity, but the impurity are not inherently existing. They're devoid of inherently existing impurity. It's very beautiful. They do not decrease, meaning decrease or increase, meaning that your virtue or your wholesome qualities do not necessarily inherently decrease, It is always dependent on what factors you play, what factors you don't play. So there may be decrease, increase, but there's no inherently increasing, decreasing. You don't have to become better. You are empty of better. You are empty of betterment, necessity of betterment. So don't try too hard to become better. No, you are worse. There's no inherently existing worse in you. So everything is only relative to something, so therefore there is no inherently existing thing. So these 8 profound realizations are very addition to the 4 valid points. 4 valid points, okay? I'm going quickly because that's the time we have. Not because I know this so well that I'm so fluently passing through, and you also know everything like that. This is this is a very profound subject, and we should decide to meditate every day 20 times. Still not enough. But get more acquaintance. You have read this. It will help us. It will help us to not hold rigid fundamentalist views about anyone, anything. It's so spacious. It gives you space. It makes space in your mind. It makes space between you and other things. It gives them a break. Gives others a space. And your view a space. And then it opens up. It's like Buddha means it opens your heart. And it doesn't make you too narrow, become bounded anymore. This is the perfection of wisdom. It's the wisdom that eradicates the suffering and its causes. Because suffering is caused by erroneous, wrong views. And this Heart Sutra helps us to develop the correct view. And then when you have the correct view, your eyes are open. Until then, our eyes was covered in cataract. We could see, but only hazy pictures. But after your eyes been operated, you can see the whole thing. Unless you have that wisdom discerning emptiness, no matter what virtues you do, what wholesome karma you created, are still possible that you do to grasp at them. If you do grasping spoils the virtue. So as soon as you create practice like dana or generosity or tolerance, we must meditate. That was empty. Generosity is emptiness. Emptiness is generosity. Emptiness is generosity, and so on. So you got to do that. But still practice generosity, of course. But you don't get attached to it. Or if somebody harms you, you don't think they harmed you. You think that they helped you. Because helping the harm that you call they did is not because they did harm us, but we run into it ourselves. So they cannot harm us unless we put ourselves in there. You know, it's usually we are party to it. You know, we are party to it. We don't own our own role. We don't want to think that we had anything to do with. See, that's why harm is emptiness. Emptiness is what? Emptiness inherently created by somebody. Yeah, it's not saying there is no harm. There is harm for both sides. There's no doubt about that. Other one is not enjoying either. But they're saying that there is no harm. That it is only harm to one and not harm to another. It's not like that. Therefore, harm is emptiness. Empty of inherently existing harm. Empty of permanent harm. If it's empty of harm, it can be remedied. If the harm is permanent, we can't remedy it. So, are you trying to remedy problem? Yes, because it's empty. Because it's empty of inherent existence, it can be remedied. It's amazing, isn't it? So, therefore, the whole understanding of emptiness is applied wisdom of Buddhism. It makes you to apply the Dharma in more skillfully, more compassionately. If you don't understand emptiness, there's nothing unique about Buddhism. Everything is same. Doing this, don't do this, don't do this. Just whose list is longer, that's all. Buddhism says empty. If you understand emptiness, then it's really helpful. Really helpful. Then we don't become so attached to our view as Buddhist view is only right view. See, that's why. Buddhist view is not inherently existent. Inherently existent. You know, Buddha taught the Buddhist view in India after he had a good run with the Vedic views, all the other non-Buddhist views, so Buddha, the views of whatever he taught become much more easily pronounceable because there were all other kinds of comparative views. They made it a lot easier to show. You can't say this is yellow unless put next to an orange. Otherwise, it looks pretty orange. So particularly when there's a lot of kinds of yellow. So the thing is not yellow in itself. It's only yellow when it's next to a green, next to a blue. But if there's something else, it may look pretty green. So everything is relative. What is relative is not ultimate. So when we say emptiness, means it's only relative. It's very useful. Yeah.
Is it linked with dependent origination?
Yeah. Of course, that's the dependent origination. Because it's dependent origination, things are not inherently existing. That's not independently existing. So opposite of independent is dependent origination. Very important Buddhist concept. So those are the 8 profound realizations. And then, of course, you apply that with all other things. Therefore is an expression of reason, instrumental of reason. So therefore, because of these points about 5 aggregates and all these 8 profound realizations, then Shariputra, again, in emptiness there is no form. Meaning in emptiness, what is emptiness? There is no inherently existing, independently existing, truly existing, permanently existing form. Yeah. So therefore, whatever there was, that is the form of the problem. It doesn't exist anymore. So what you're bothering about? It does not exist. It happened 2 years ago. It does not have anything left. What are you talking about? Yet people regurgitating. They're bringing up things. That's post-traumatic disorder, stress disorder, because they haven't realized in emptiness there's no form. And then no feeling, no discrimination, no compositive action, no consciousness. Now he goes and repeat again the 5 aggregates first. So this is called the liberation from the 5 aggregates and liberation from the 6 sense faculties. 6 sense faculties, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. So these are the 6 sense faculties. So then is liberation from 6 sense objects. no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. So that takes about 6 sense organs, 6 sense object. This is sometimes called sources of perception. Sources is the form, sound, smell, yeah? And perception happens from the eye, visual perception, ears, auditory perception. So if you heard something, for instance, you got to say, what you heard, so no sound, meaning no sound is very good. No sound. There's not even a sound, let alone language, let alone abuse, let alone why are you hearing this, let alone these things. So if you understand emptiness, there is no sound that is inherently existing. But yet there is a sound you think is that is abusive or whatever. That's because of the language. That's because of all these things. But if you don't know the language, people say something horrible to you, you say, what did you say? See, there is no really sound that is inherently harmful if you don't know the language. So sound is only language. Language is emptiness. If you don't know the language. But if you know the language, oh, he speaks the language. Straight away we become careful. Oh, he understands Japanese. Straight away. Then we don't say them, make remarks in Japanese. See? So the problem is not because the Japanese language is said badly, because he knows it. That's the problem. And you just happen to be speaking things that are not bad in Japanese. But if you among every person who speaks Japanese, you wouldn't be saying that. So there is no real, truly existing sound that he says that hurts you, he says that upsets you, he says that is good for him, bad for you. People get caught. He said this to me. And they get really upset for years. They said this to me. And then they think that's the end of the world. They don't realize it is just not inherently existing. It's just because of your own vulnerability, you took it too personally and therefore makes it so hard to accept. But if you hear it very carefully, you may hear it as an anguish, sorrow, or stress, and a great problem in their lives. If you hear from kind carers and professional social workers' point of view, you will hear differently. Whereas you hear from the point of view of a person who thinks he's been abused or harmed, it's a totally different sound. So that's why when it lists these things, that likewise there's no eye, no ear, no. Some people say, I saw this with my own eyes, call it. My own eyes, so reliable. It's usually very waxed by prejudice. So reliable, you reckon? and also hearing, also very, very biased, No tongue, that's tongue. No body, now this is no body, no mind, no form, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. So that lists the 12 constituents. These 12 constituent means 6 sense faculties, 6 sense objects, 6 sense objects. Now, next page, when it says, so that these are liberation from aggregate sense faculties, sense objects, then liberation from 18 elements. 18 elements refers to plus the 12 sense faculties, sense objects, you add 6 sense consciousness. So that makes 18 elements. That's why it says there's no I element, and so forth, and so forth, up to no mind element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. So therefore, there are 18 constituents. So that's why they are, even if you say, I heard it, you believe in your hearing so much, but you heard it, but somebody didn't hear it. You heard it because you have a hearing, but somebody have an ear but didn't hear it. They have switched off the hearing aid. That's right. They say, wait a minute, I'll put the switch, put a hearing aid. As soon as the hearing aid, the person has finished saying that, so you have to say it again. So, even put the hearing aid doesn't mean he can hear it. If the person doesn't say it, you can't hear nothing. Even putting hearing aid, you can't hear nothing unless he said it again. So you can invalidate everything. And even hearing aid is not inherently existing. Even hearing aid is emptiness. Emptiness is hearing aid. Emptiness is no other than hearing aid. And hearing aid is no other than emptiness. Why? If somebody doesn't say anything, even hearing aid cannot hear anything. So that shows the hearing aid is totally empty of inherent existence. Even if a hearing aid, but put it here on, it doesn't hear anything. It got to go in here, that ear doesn't hear. So all these kind of unique characteristics, shows that how everything is dependent origination, not independent, not inherent, not truly existing thing. When you understand that, then you can space each other. You can let go. You don't hold these tense views. What is right, what is wrong, what is proper, what is improper, who did what, who didn't do what. All this kind of divisive, judgmental, mean-spirited mind cannot operate in the emptiness. It totally stops the suffering. It just stops the very kernel, the very heart of the suffering. Very heart of the suffering is grasping to truly existing. It stops that. After that, then it moves to liberation from 12 interdependent origination. So it says here, therefore, Shariputra, therefore, there is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to aging and death, no exhaustion, aging, and death. So that sentence covers all the 12 links of interdependent origination. For instance, when it says there's no ignorance, means even ignorance is not truly existing, not inherently existing. If ignorance is truly existing, we cannot know ignorance. We cannot invalidate, we cannot remove ignorance. Because ignorance is not truly existent, so there is no ignorance that will not be always remain ignorant. If that's the case, we can never go to school because we are all ignorant inherently. Yeah. So ignorance is the first link, and then after that is what you call volition, consciousness, the first three links. And sort of ignorance, volition, consciousness, and then name and form. Then sense organs. Then sense organs, and then contact, then feeling, then craving, then clinging, then becoming, then birth, then aging, and then death. So all the 12 links, that's in the 12 links of interdependent origination, there is no ignorance, no exhaustion of aging and no exhaustion of ignorance or so forth, no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. So that refers that 12 links of interdependent origination. If the 12 links go into the sequence we're just talking about, that's called 12 links of interdependent origination, samsara. And if we reverse the ignorance, if there's no ignorance, there will be no composition of factors, there's no consciousness, and then all the other 11 links will not happen. So you can undo that. So these are therefore there's these 12 links of interdependent origination one can be completely liberated from. Complete liberation is possible because none of these 12 links are inherently existing. Of the 12 links, first, some are cause, others are result, Others are affliction. Like the 8th and 9th links are afflictions. The others are cause, others are result. So therefore, there is no one that is inherently cause. If it's inherently existing cause, it never produces result. Because it's a dependently existing cause, it can produce result. And so on. So therefore, that's the 12 links of interdependent origination. So that's regarding the 12 links interdependent origination. In the same way, now this is that sentence actually is very includes about not only 12 links, but how 12 links of samsara is caused by delusions. And attainment of nirvana is also undoing of the delusions. When you're undoing the delusions, then the 12 links becomes links of liberation. Links. If you reverse the links, then it's links of liberation. If the links are not liberated, then they become links of samsara. So that's that. And then next one is attainment, liberation from the Four Noble Truths. Usually we talk about Four Noble Truths, but if you really understand, now the emptiness is not just about aggregates. Even the Four Noble Truths are empty of inherent existence, my dear. so in the same way, there is no suffering. There's no suffering. That's very good news to know. See, I told you there's no suffering. And of course there's no happiness, it's better still. So there is no inherently existing suffering. Yeah? Likewise, there is no inherently existing origin of suffering, you know. If there is inherently existing origin of suffering, then the suffering will not even exist. Because the origin is inherent and impermanent. Because they're not inherently existing, there is suffering. So there is suffering, but there is no suffering that's inherent, permanent, truly existing. If there is inherently existing suffering, we could not remove suffering, we cannot relieve suffering, and we can never talk about suffering to relieve it. So what's the point of talking? Because there is no inherently existing suffering, then just think there is no suffering, and yeah, there is no inherently existing suffering. It was just, I was thinking just foolish. And you realize suffering is basically a poor thought, went too far. There is no actually inherently existing suffering that is knee, you know. When he's thinking about his knee all the time, then he's always suffering, you know. But when he forgets about knee, he thinks about his horse or his garden or the new car or whatever, then he's not suffering about his knee. It's amazing. So there's no inherently existing suffering about anything, you know. So that's very important. No, there is anything that is inherently origin. And likewise, there's no cessation. Cessation means there's no stop, no inherently existing stoppage, and no path. So these are the Four Noble Truths, and liberation from form and wisdom. No exalted wisdom. There's no wisdom. Perfection wisdom is not inherently existing, remember that. And no attainment. What did you get? The trophy? No. Nobody gave you a trophy. By the time you thought you're going to get the trophy, you didn't have a hand to get it. So no form and no attainment, no non-attainment. So this list even not only the samsara, but even the attainment, even the realization of Four Noble Truths, all of the form and wisdom aspect of enlightenment, they too do not exist. So that paragraph number 11 is very filled with all the details. But your understanding of those things will be a bit difficult unless you employ the understanding of 4 valid points with the 5 aggregates first. So first always deal with 5 aggregates and then slowly break it down. You know, the others are more breaking down. The 5 aggregates are more psychophysical organs that constitute what we think is self. Yeah. Okay. Now, in the commentary, it says that. What these things all say is the implicit nature of your mind. Explicitly it's saying the form is emptiness, emptiness is a form is not than emptiness, emptiness is not the form. But what really is saying, implicitly is saying is that mind is empty, emptiness is mind is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than mind. That's the implicit teaching. So now you got to go subtle, isn't it? Now you go to the mind. So implicit teaching is the nature of your mind. Perfection, wisdom, meditation. From the gross, then you come to the subtle. That is your mind, isn't it? So then you look at my mind. You look at the mind. Nature of the mind is emptiness, isn't it? You can't find the man. You can't say it's yellow. Because at least aggregates you can say tall, long, heavy, bulky, you know. You can say that. But with mind, you can't measure, you can't bring a tape, you can't put a photograph, you can't do anything that can actually do with the mind. So mind is a damn good example of emptiness. Mind is emptiness, isn't it? Emptiness is mind. But still, empty though mind is, but still you can know Know that. That knowing aspect is emptiness is mind. It's because it's emptiness, therefore you can mind it. Therefore there's a mentation, there's activity, there is a knowing. There's a knowing, yeah? But if you look at mind in the mind, you can't find it. Because the mind is not in the mind, nature of the mind is luminosity. Luminosity means it's not bounded here in 2 square feet. Luminosity is infinite. It's infinite, and therefore it is spacious. It is not 1, it is not 10 degrees, it's not 400 kilos. It's infinite, it's boundless. So emptiness is like boundless, isn't it? So therefore, mind is emptiness, emptiness is the mind. Emptiness is no other than mind is no other than the emptiness. So when you do that, if you see something, they say all appearances are mind. Because mind is emptiness, all appearances are empty. Yeah? So it's very good, isn't it? So there you can use that. Because of that, all appearances are emptiness, but all appearances are just your mind. First you do all appearances are just your mind. Because if all appearance is your mind, you can change it. You change your mind, the appearance changes. So if it's truly existing in the appearance, you can't change your mind and expect them to change, because they truly exist, you know. If you say your father is kind person, then he's kind person. If you remember some places where your father was a little bit sort of violent or aggressive, when you think about that, then you think that's that. So whatever you think, then the father becomes like that. But when you stop that thought and you think about the father something else, then the image changes. So therefore the appearance is just the mind, our mind. So that means that the form is emptiness and form is your mind. The form, just like we say form is emptiness, we say form is your mind. Just as form is emptiness, the form is, mind is emptiness. So give yourself a break, you know. Yeah. Otherwise you might think my mind is real. It's all my fault. So that's a danger, you know. This is subjectively. So when you know that form is emptiness, then the form itself is emptiness is the form. It's not that your mind is real, then it creates this real problem that doesn't exist there. It's not there. So this is very good from the point of view of nature of the mind. So using the implicit nature of the mind. So that's implicit, meaning implied in the teachings, and commentary gives huge teaching on that, but we have no time more than that. Therefore, now this is instruction to practice perfectionism. Therefore, Shariputra, because Buddhas have no attainment, they depend on, Buddha has no inherently existing abandonment, they depend on abide and perfection of wisdom. Their meditation is perfection of wisdom. Why? Because their minds are without obstruction. They don't have afflictions that inherently exist. They don't have habits that is inherently existing. And therefore they are without fear. Then, because there's no grasping. Having completely passed beyond all errors, they go to the completion nirvana. So people who become enlightened, they become enlightened by meditating on this. This is the meditation subject of the highest kind of all the Buddhas. All the Buddhas who abide in 3 times, in the past, present, and future Buddhas, they all reach enlightenment through this meditation. They will reach enlightenment through this. They have reached enlightenment through this. So therefore you might as well start meditating on this if you want to become a Buddha. So yeah. So he says, having relied on the perfection and wisdom, because all the past Buddhas who, having relied on the perfection, became manifestly perfect Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. So this means this is the very meditation. This is the very meditation that Buddhas spend most of the time under the Bodhi tree. Outwardly, he was meditating calm abiding. He was sitting in a cross-legged posture. That was the format. But deep down, his main meditation is emptiness. You know, main meditation is inside meditation, but inside meditation is done within the environment of calm abiding. So calm abiding is just creating a circumstance calm enough to be able to focus your attention that know the nature of emptiness. So that's what all the Buddhas have meditated on this and gained enlightenment. Therefore, now, okay, how should you? Why the reason of these teachings? Therefore, this is still Avalokiteshvara talking. You know, he hasn't stopped, has he? He's long answer, long answer. Shariputra was just sitting there. Just imagine the other audience members, they just dumbfounded. Just amazing. This is the dragon roaring, you know. This is not your classroom teacher talking, you know. Therefore, you know, amazing confidence. The mantra of perfection wisdom is the mantra of the great knowledge. So the mantra of Heart Sutra is the great knowledge mantra. So that's why the mantra we have got here. Because there is no other great mantra, unsurpassed mantra. You know, this is mantra that cannot, because other people use for healing mantra, this wealth mantra, this wisdom mantra for this, obstacle removing mantra for this. These mantras are just for that alone, just for this. These mantras surpass all mantras. Because all other mantras might develop grasping. This mantra is trying to exterminate, destroy all the form of grasping, even to health, even to whatever it is. So it's not, all the others are like grasping for mantras. You know, we're not saying they are, but if one understands Heart Sutra, they can be used for the temporal reasons of health and whatever, but without any grasping. So that's why it's unsurpassed mantra. Mantra equal to the unequal. Other mantra may be just good for removing obstacles, or in restoring your memory, or removing fears. But this is not just for one thing, you know. This just encompasses all mantras. Mantra that equal to unequal. Mantra that thoroughly pacify all sufferings. All sufferings, you know, particularly the cognitive sufferings. Suffering caused by cognitive obscuration, knowledge obscuration. Because it is not false, means all other mantras are relatively sort of like false, you know, to increase wealth or whatever. It's just, what's the point of practicing dharma to get material wealth when actually it's only going to ruin you, or it's only going to degenerate you. So what's the point of doing mantras to do that, you know? They're just like a deluded. That will delude people who don't have the wisdom. Whereas this mantra is not that kind of mantra. It should be known as the truth. The Heart Sutra mantra as the truth. That is the truth. So therefore, people who wanted to understand the Heart Sutra understand a little bit. Even if they don't have time to recite the whole Heart Sutra, just recite this mantra. The mantra perfection and wisdom is proclaimed. So that's why Tadyatha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhi Swaha. So what you have is that this has Tadyatha, means it is das. Om is homage. Gate Gate, there's 4 gates there. Gate means gone actually. Yeah, gone. Paragate means thoroughly gone. You know. Parasangate means thoroughly gone. So it's a different going, you know. Some people go, but they come back, you know. Go. So this 4 goes, and bodhi is the 5th. These represent five paths. Path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of no more learning. These are 5 different stages of enlightenment, yeah? So depending to your realization of wisdom, there are 5 different levels of paths of enlightenment. We are all on the first gate. There's a path of accumulation, because we're always accumulating merit and practicing. Yeah, haven't quite realized emptiness yet, but we know a little bit about emptiness. But if you second gate is path of preparation. So that's usually you sense a lot of emptiness. There's a lot of renunciation. There's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of humility. There's a lot of contentment. There's a lack of gross enmity and a craving. There are a lot of reduced when you have path preparation. Paragate is the path of seeing. So that is, you actually reach the first bhumi of enlightenment. Yeah? Then after that, parasangate, which is path of meditation, so that's the first 7 bhumis. First 7 bhumis are like that. And 7 bhumis, 8 and 9 and 10. And then slowly bodhi is path of no more learning. That's enlightenment itself. So this mantra, if one recite this, gone really means gone from suffering and its causes. Yeah, gone from grasping and its causes. Means you're liberated from grasping to form, grasping to feelings, and so on. That you're completely gone means you're liberated. You're no longer in that class anymore. You're graduated. You're graduated from samsara. Gone. So after having spoken the mantra, then it says, Shariputra, Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom in that way. See, now Avalokita is reiterating. You have asked a question, and now as I've given you the answer, I want to give you instruction that you as a Bodhisattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom in this way, means should meditate on this sequence. First meditate on the emptiness of form, and then feeling, not other way around. Don't try to meditate on emptiness of mind. First meditate on emptiness aggregate, and then gross form and the feeling and so on, then eyes and then form and then ear and the sound and so on, slowly, then you will, so in that way, in that very sequence. You know what happened? Until then Buddha was still in meditation. He wasn't speaking a word. He was causing all the words to be spoken. he was making everybody speak and answer, but he was still meditating. I mean, that would be good if you can do that. Make somebody do the talking. Then the Blessed One, means Avalokita, there's the Shakyamuni Buddha, arose from that samadhi, meaning he pretended that he needed to break or something. He rose from the samadhi. When the Buddha rises from samadhi, there's amazing signs. Earth shakes.
Yes.
And people will notice, and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara. So the Shakyamuni Buddha spoke to Avalokiteshvara. Well done, well done, well done. One of good lineage. It is just so. One of good lineage. It is just like that. See? Reassurance. Saying that that's everything what Avalokiteshvara said, the sequence in which he said, the list of things he provided, could not have been more comprehensive. Just like that. Profound perfection wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught. I fully recommend his statement. That's what I'm saying, really. Even the Tathagatas would rejoice the way Avalokiteshvara put it. He says, I couldn't have been able to speak better than that. That's fantastic. Well done, Avalokiteshvara. My son. Something like that, So Avalokiteshvara, Shakyamuni Buddha rise from the meditation, and then he says that word. That's the only spoken words of the Buddha. So that spoken words endorses all the conversation that took place. Yeah. So that's called the Heart Sutra has a spoken word of Buddha, blessed word of Buddha, and endorsed words of the Buddha. So all these things are basically blessed by the Buddha. And then Buddha gives the seal of approval, doesn't it? He gives the seal of approval. And then after that, that means that because Buddha has endorsed it, everybody says, "Can I have a copy? Can I have a copy? Do you have do you have a PDF version? Can you send me one?" Then everybody's now the Heart Sutra is being copied everywhere. Everybody writing in the ink and gold and money and silver and you should. If you have good calligraphic pen, you should do your own Heart Sutra. Very, very nice. Very good karma to write your prayers with your own handwritings. Very good. Bless you very much. And so that means the teaching has been now permitted by the Buddha and endorsed by Buddha. And the rest is then the Blessed One arose. Shakyamuni Buddha arose. Then Blessed One having so spoken, the Venerable Shariputra Bodhisattva Mahasattva. So these are the two. Our Shariputra did asking, and Avalokiteshvara did the answering. And all those gathered there, They were not some falling asleep or they were all just, they could see a penny drop. They could hear every single words, and their sequence and the answer was just best thing you ever heard. You know, that's called "Thus I have heard." It's so precious, and so, you know, even you meet the Buddha, that's all you're gonna hear. You know, there is nothing better to hear. They call liberation through hearing. All those who were there definitely got liberated. He says here, all those gathered there, gods, demigods, humans, Gandharvas, filled with admiration. They all couldn't believe. It wasn't too deep, too profound, too hard. Nobody said, it went over my head. What was that all about? I can't understand. Nothing, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch. Nobody complained. Everybody said, wow, that's really true. And praise the words of the Buddha. So they're all very happy and glad the teaching they heard. Yeah. So here in the bottom of the outline we have essential practice. How do you practice the Heart Sutra? It's basically it teaches the triple meditative concentration on emptiness, signless, and wishlessness. If you understand the perfection of wisdom, you see everything is emptiness. If everything is empty, then you don't have anything that has a sign of blue or red or yellow or good or bad. You are not looking for signs or symbols and this or that. You're not looking for something. Everything is emptiness, remember? When everything is emptiness, you don't look for form. You don't choose form. Yeah. So, and why? Because emptiness is signless. There's no sign. Because sign is only designated by people who haven't realized emptiness. So when you have no, some people, then next time you should give to each other a book. You buy a good book, give to each other, but book has no writing in it. Very good. It's just got a sign, thinking it's a book, but it's a signless book. Some Buddhists give that. They give a book that's empty, no printing, totally empty. Just to make them to say, empty your mind. So there's got a lot of people giving me empty books because I teach this so often. They say, give him the empty book, then he knows whether he knows or not. And wishlessness. You don't have any craving. You don't have particular wantings. When your wanting is so minimalist, then your attachment and disappointment is that much minimalist. All our disappointment comes from as many craving and expectation there is. So lesser the wish, that much lesser the sign, and therefore there is no problem. So the deep meditation every day is, if you know how to meditate on perfection of wisdom, that see everything as emptiness. And then because emptiness, whatever you see as the signs are just, unless you designate the sign and label to it, you take the sign off the sign, then it becomes emptiness becomes signlessness, and therefore wishlessness. Then you don't have any particular craving for you to make this to become this or that, because you couldn't tell which is which. You can't separate the one from the other because you haven't demarcated, you haven't designated, you haven't labeled it. All problem comes from labeling to something, and then think this is this, not making it just remain emptiness. Then we think something, then we put label to something, then we wish this one to do that, not to do this, and because of that, everything becomes a problem. So therefore, this Heart Sutra you can practice. It says here, implicit teaching of the sutra, post-meditation practice. Post-meditation, not just when you read the Heart Sutra in the session, post-meditation you should see everything as not as they appear. You can see them, but they're just have a caution that they're not as they appears. And then when you know they're not their appears, then you're not so rigid thinking they are what they look like, They may be exactly opposite, depending on how mental imagination creates. So then you can see the flexibility of mind's emptiness. So it's not so longer rigid. So therefore, what you hear somebody says something nasty or good or bad or flattery, you're not going up and down or like this from one extreme to another. You can see all as all sound as emptiness. No sound. What did you say? No sound. So, and then particularly if you don't get attached to what they say, a sign. Oh, he thinks he really likes me. Look at the way he says, I can't, handle this praise. He loves me so much. I'm so happy. You get really caught up in the sign of attachment to the praise, Or if somebody says something unpleasant, if you are attached to the sign of praise, then you will suffer. You wouldn't. You don't know how to cope with it. But because you know the emptiness of it, therefore you don't put value in that's fixed value into it. Yeah, you're not attached. You're not so needy. You're not so needy and greedy, and because of that, you don't have any particular cravings. And so, where there's no craving, there's no ignorance. There's no ignorance. There's no frustration. There's no disappointment. So you actually are in the state of emptiness. So, excellent practice. How do you practice this in Heart Sutra? So, you read this Heart Sutra, then on the back of the page 4, there is a particular practice you do. So, we're going to finish it off with this tonight. We do the Heart Sutra first, and then we recite the mantra 21 times. And then usually we have lots of things in our mind about which we really are still hanging on to. We don't quite think they're empty, they're real, and so forth. Here in this meditation, you meditate that thing, that issue, that problem, that phenomena, that feeling, that worry is actually empty of inherent existence. But due to my clinging and grasping, it has been made as that. So I'm going to meditate on the emptiness and just crush them between the giant sun and giant moon. So imagine your right hand and left hand are sun and moon. And then everything, all the problems are going to squash between these two, clap it, and then just meditate on the emptiness, empty of inherent existence. Even though somebody you have difficulty with, or you have been difficult with them, but just meditate out of compassion. Both are so strong and lost in this wrong way of viewing things. Actually, these are all empty of inherent existence, from the form all the way to consciousness. From matter to consciousness, everything is empty of inherent existence. May this profound, you swear through the Heart Sutra. You swear through Heart Sutra and then clap, and 3 times. And then imagine all the sentient beings, may they be free from grasping and clinging to things that look real, but may they realize emptiness. So with this in mind, we'll do a Heart Sutra recitation here. To the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One, who is willing, Rajgiri and will just be together with great assembly of Sangha and great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, Blessed One was absorbed in samadhi or enumeration of phenomena called profound illumination. Also at that time, Bodhisattva Mahasa, superior Avalokitesha, was contemplating on the meaning of profound perfection of wisdom. He saw that the 5 aggregates are also empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said this Bodhisattva Mahasa, the superior Avalokitesha, how should son or daughter of good lineage train who wishes to practice profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Bodhisattva Mahasa, the superior Avalokitesha, said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage wishes to practice profound perfection of wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view that the 5 aggregates are also empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is none other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, factor, consciousness are empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty. They are without characteristic, they are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurity, they are not devoid impurity, they know decrease, increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. There is no I element and so forth, and up to element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth. There is no aging and exhaustion, aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no power, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed beyond all error, they go to completion nirvana. All Buddhas who abide in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest perfect Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom is mantra of great knowledge. Unsurpassed mantra, mantra equal to the unequal, mantra that thoroughly pacify all suffering. Because it not false, it should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tadyatam gade 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 baragad parasangade bodhi swaha. Shariputra, Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom in that way. Then the Blessed One arose from the samadhis, that was Mahasattva Subhirabhalokatashra. Well done, well done, well done. What is a good lineage? It is just so, as one of good lineage is like that. Profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught it. Even Tathagatas rejoice in this. Blessed One, having so spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the both Mahasattva, both superior Avalokatash, and all the gathered there, and those that are gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, filled with admiration and praise the lords of blessed Buddha. Tadyatam gade 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 barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade parangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade 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 barangade barazangade bodhiso Tadyatam gade 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 barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam 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 gade gade tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade 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 barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso tadyatam gade gade barangade barazangade bodhiso. Namo, I pay homage to Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to Dharma, I pay homage to Sangha, I pay homage to Blessed Mother of Perfect Wisdom. By the power of paying homage to you all, may our words of truth triumph. Just long ago, Shakra, the king of gods, and those who meditate and profound meaning with the Blessed Mother of Perfect Wisdom, successfully repel all demonic obstacles and evil beings in the life. And so in the very same way, may we also through the power of meditating the profound meaning, reciting the words of Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom, all be able to repel obstacles and disharmonious factors. May they be annihilated. May they be pacified. Namo, I pay homage to Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to Dharma, I pay homage to Sangha, I pay homage to Blessed Mother, perfect wisdom. By the power of paying homage to all, may our words truth and just so long. Shakra, the king of the gods, and then go power to meditate and profound meditation, reciting words of blessing, perfection, wisdom, successfully repelled all demonic obstacles, the evil beings in life. So in the very same way, may also through the power of meditating and profound meditation, reciting words of Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom, be able to repel obstacles, the disharmonious factors, may they be annihilated, may they be pacified. Namo, I pay homage to Master, I pay homage to Buddha, I pay homage to Lama, I pay homage to Sangha, I pay homage to Blessed Mother, perfection, wisdom.
By the power of paying homage to you, may our words true and just the log of Choedak, king of man, through the power of meditative, meaning, but as a mother, perfect wisdom, successfully repel all demonic obstacles, evil beings and life. So in the same way, may always through the power of meditative, the profound meditative, residing words of blessed mother, perfection, wisdom, be able to repel all obstacles and disharmony. In fact, may they be may all outer inner obstacles by attaining completely totally be passive. So, the understanding of this Heart Sutra is the perfection of wisdom, which one should apply after and with everything you do. Whether it's a generosity, whether it's tolerance, whatever you do, you should, as soon as you do, you should think that the thing you did is dependently originated due to many, many causes and conditions. What we did is small part of it. Even if somebody harmed you, you should think that their harm is totally empty of inherent existence. What they did is a small part of it. What we did is also a small part. There are many other small. All these things makes us to not get so rigid and stiff and clinging to it, and then meditate on the illusoriness of all things. And you can meditate on emptiness, lack of inherent existence, dependent origination of form, substance, or object and subject and activity. They are all interdependent. Nothing exists from it one side. Then you will not be so rigid or fundamentalist like a wrong view holder. You see them as not truly existing. So it's very, very beneficial. It is the mother of all the Buddhas. All the Buddhas were given birth by meditating on this. We become Buddhas by meditating on emptiness. So the emptiness is the mother of all the Buddhas. So we should have such a wet nurse mother in us, understanding of emptiness. So we dedicate the merit. By the merit of this merit and the stubbornness, defeat the evil enemies, defilements. May I liberate all sentient beings from the oceans and travel the waves of birth, all this sickness and death. There's a danger and jendela, Dagesana and Diagandaba, and Doga de Jordan Bejo, and Jetama Mebe, Nurjur. By listening to the excellent, precious mind and the teachings, whatever boundless merit I acquire, may all sentient beings become stressing themselves to retain the excellent and precious mind and the teaching. Chanjo Zenjo Rinpoche, Maje Bana Je Jeba Nyamba Mebai, Konen Gondu Bewajo. May the supreme and precious bodhicitta take birth, we have not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without judgment.